they have basically become the undisputed guide service in Northern Illinois, bar none, and maybe Southern Wisconsin. He's got a couple of extra guides. They've got trips up the kazoo. If none of you have been on one of these trips, you absolutely have to go. Mike has taken me to places where, honestly, when we would stop for lunch, I would just sit there and say to myself, I don't feel like I'm in Illinois, honestly. They work very hard to give you a very professional trip. It's first class. They work their butts off for you, and they're knowledgeable. And to make it even better, they told me that if anybody is interested in booking a trip that is watching this program, I am going to send an email out with a code, and they're willing to take $75 off the booking fee for anybody watching tonight. So that's a little gift from them to us. And gentlemen, you're up. I very much am looking forward to this. So without any further ado, Kurt and Mike.
Thanks, Mark.
Can you guys see the screen and hear us okay?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
So Mark gave us a pretty good introduction. Most of the members know us. As a longtime member at DRiFT, still am. I think I've been in there probably as long as Mark. Okay. Our program, we have approximately 5 boats now, 2 rafts, a couple drift boats. We got another drift boat on the way. We run full days, half days, quick trips. We fish 5 different systems, basically from southern Wisconsin down to Morris. So we have a pretty big range of water we have to pick from. What's that? Okay. We provide a lunch. We have, like I said, we have full days and half days. Basically an 8 to 10 hour day. You know, we float 6 to 8 miles is your full day on the water. So runs in line with most other, floating guide trips. We're a warm water fishery, as most of you know if you live in Illinois. Smallmouth, largemouth bass, pike, carp, a few other Illinois exotics thrown in there. You have your gar. Once in a while we get shots at those. But that's about it in a nutshell, what kind of program we're running. I think Kurt's going to play our YouTube video real quick. If any members on here haven't seen it, just check your phones or whatever. But if you haven't seen it, it's a pretty darn good video, I think.
Can you guys hear that?
Yep.
All right.
Kurt,
No.
there's no volume.
How about now?
Chicago is more or less a working Midwest town. There's a lot going on in the city. There's some stuff outside the city that not a lot of people know about.
There's not a lot of opportunities in Illinois. You got a few state parks, but from the city on west, you have suburbs and then all cornfields. You like the outdoors. Fishing's a good way to get out.
Can you guys hear that now?
No, really.
Can you guys hear? Can you hear the audio or no?
No audio.
I think if you played it through the Zoom link for the shared screen, it would probably sound better than trying to come through your phone. Off the screen. I don't know how they're doing it.
Out of there.
All right, we're gonna skip the video.
Can you guys hear us good?
I can
We
hear
can
you.
hear
What's
you.
that river up there on the picture now?
All right, for some reason I can't get the audio to work with the video. Try. Let's see. Can you guys hear that?
No.
No,
I don't know how we'll make it work.
totally.
All right, we'll continue on. I can't get the audio to work. You can check that video out on YouTube. Just type in Midwest Waters Angling. That thing's been floating around for a while. Like Mike said, full days, half days, group trips are super popular. We can accommodate 3-4 boats even, depending on the river. You get a lot of the group stuff. Raft and drift boat trips. And we'll start off with our early season program. This is winter fishing, December, January, February, March. And we're still kind of at the tail end of it. It's one of our favorite times of the year. The rivers are not crowded. Nobody's out fishing. I mean, we catch 20s in 35 to 40 degree water. This time of year, throwing fast action 7 and 8 weight rods, sinking lines. We don't typically use floating lines. This time of year, we're trying to get the fly down to the deepest areas of the river where these fish winter. If you know where these fish winter, they're all packed up in there, and you can have a good day in one hole. Slowest, deepest holes, working them real slow. And they're gonna stay near their wintering holes till the water gets up to like 52 degrees. They'll kind of wander out a little bit, but they're gonna stay really close. This is when it's really key to know your river, know the holes. They're gonna be there every year, same spots. People think they go deep, but they'll winter in 2 to 4 feet of water. It's all subjective to the size of the river. Mike will talk about flies here.
Excuse me. So most of the flies we're using are heavy dumbbell eye style flies with a lot of action, leeches, big craws, rabbit fur, stuff like that. You want to stick with like the slide here says, you want to stick with the natural colors bottom of the river, which by us means black, green, whatever the substrate is, you want to stick with that particular color.
Black is a really good fly for dirty water.
Most of these flies are heavy on intermediate lines, or sometimes depending on the water level, like lately the water's low, so I'll go with a floating line. You just bounce that fly off the bottom, hopping it with the rod tip.
Mending and mending and mending.
You want to use an 8 weight with a lot of this big heavy stuff, and heavy leaders. Most of the time in the spring, your leader can be up to 20 pounds. I rarely go under 12 pounds for a leader. Only in the summer do I narrow down that tippet size. It's an early season smallmouth. Got a big leech in his mouth.
Our number one go-to fly this time of year is a big black leech.
It's not the funnest way to fish, you know, it's a lot like, if any of you guys have done steelhead fishing, just bouncing bottom, it's a lot like that, dragging through holes, but sometimes the biggest fish of the year are there. It's another fish, I believe this one was in March.
February 20th.
Stand corrected. All these are spring fish. So the other week I was out and a lot of times it pays off to put a small streamer behind your leech. Use it as a, you know, throw a tandem rig, or sometimes the fishing's picking up during the spring. I'll throw a streamer pattern on to see if they're active enough to chase, you know, a streamer. You don't want to work it like you're working those streamers in the summer. You want to work it super slow. Very similar again to like steelhead fishing. A lot of times this is the best time. And you guys want to swing, you know, you let that fly dangle down there at the end of a deep hole and just tug it every once in a while. So like I was just talking about, the big streamers, you want to use, you know, 6-inch articulated flies are what I use. You can tie singles that long too. You know, there's various different patterns. White's a real big popular color here with us, the waters we fish. We use a lot of white chartreuse, white and yellow, white and pink.
That's about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've tried them all, you know, sometimes a copper color here and there, but it's your base color for us is white.
We love white because we can see it the easiest. I mean, white is very visible out of the boat.
Most
The
of
sun
our,
hits it.
yeah, most of our forage is, you know, dace. We get
Emerald
shad. Some of the rivers that flow into the bigger systems will get, you know, big schools of shad and stuff like that. So
A lot of emerald shiners down south.
So we're using sink tips, SA, hover sink twos, but almost all our lines are SA. They, in my opinion, they make the best warm water lines around. Nobody else can touch them. Right, you want to strip slow back to the boat, or if you're waiting for you guys that wade, you know, don't be in a big hurry. Don't go out there with your hair on fire, stripping that fly like a madman. The slower, the better. It's painstaking, but it pays off.
It's not uncommon this type of year to have a smallmouth follow a slow moving streamer all the way to the boat like a muskie. And at the last minute you go to cast and you see the smallmouth jumping out of the water after it. You always in the boat, we always make guys right before they cast just reach out and give it a couple little jiggles, and more often than not a smallmouth will come out of there and eat it just like a muskie would or a pike. You always got to watch out for that this time of year. They're not super active. Here's some more examples and pictures.
Streamer
This
fly.
is all early. This is February, March. Not even pre-spawn yet, really. This is just when they're waking up, kind of moving out of their wintering holes. Water's like 40 degrees, 45 degrees. And then pre-spawn, March, April, May, my personal favorite time of the year. I dream about this time of the year come June and July. Summer's for the birds. This was her first time fly fishing. Big old 4-pounder. Some more examples of March, April, May, pre-spawn stuff, pre-beds, waters in the 50s, upper 40s, kind of going up and down every week. Another good example. So we're using fast action 7 and 8 weight rods. I mean, we're typically using 7 and 8 weights all year until like August, you can drop down to a 6 weight or something when the water's really clear. Intermediate, full intermediates, sink tips, occasional floating lines. Sometimes we'll use the floating lines. We're not fishing poppers yet, but we're floating like wiggle minnows. So floating streamers. This time of year, we're throwing the biggest streamers in our box. Some of these rivers, we're throwing 7-inch streamers. They will not touch a 3-inch streamer. They only want the giant 6-7-inch streamers. Those are typically the rivers that have emerald shiners in them. Fish are on the move. All these males are looking for a good spawning habitat, making beds. They're not on beds and guarding, but they're fighting each other for the best spots. So they're all kind of concentrated in these back eddies and little eddies behind rocks.
As it like,
Drop offs.
like we just had our time change, that those fish follow the length of sun when the sun's out. They know.
Yeah, males are moving those areas, fanning beds. And big females are cruising up the river, checking out all the males' beds, looking for the best ones. They're not on beds, so we won't fish the beds, but they are horny and angry. Yeah, this time of year, big swinging D's, 6, 7, 8-inch flies, noisy, colorful, 2 hooks, articulated, like you're trying to make a presence. These fish don't care. They're angry as hell this time of year, full of hormones. They want to kill, they want to chase. Ragdolly, sexton, big feather game changers, 4 to 6 inches. Fish are very, very aggressive. They're all competing in one little area for food. Yeah, those flies, so everybody's seen these big 6, 7-inch flies. Big epoxy heads, pushed a lot of water, they get noticed. Big eyes. Some more example, murdiches, leeches, feather game changers, big stuff. This time of year, we're just floating down the river, pounding banks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strips back out to the bank. Same thing, you're power fishing. You're not fishing it all the way to the boat. You're fishing it to the boat where you can see the fly, make sure there's nothing behind it, and you're back out to the bank. All these fish are going to be behind structure, close to the bank. It's not like summer where they're everywhere. They could be anywhere. This time of year, it's a little easier to locate them. And like, I've had people, they cast a foot off the bank and they don't catch fish. I said, cast it an inch off the bank, and then boom, they get a hit. It's crazy. I think we've caught smallmouth with mud on their bellies. So if you got a mud bank in the spring that's getting beaten down by the sun, you'll see these smallmouth like bury their bellies in this mud, like an inch off the bank because it's so warm. 5, 10 strips back out, power fishing. You'll catch twice as many fish doing that. Some more examples of pre-spawn smallmouth. They're also fat and healthy this time of year too. Females are full of eggs. More examples. A lot of smiles. Some more pictures of some pre-spawn stuff. And Mike will talk a little bit about conservation here.
So I know everybody's seen the signs. If you've ever been on any of our local flows, you've seen the signs. I mean, I shouldn't say everybody, but it takes a long time to grow these fish. So everybody keep the fish in the water. A lot of guys trout fish. You got to treat these fish with the same respect as you do trout. If you're going to handle a big fish, know that if you drop that fish, it's likely going to float to the bottom and die. If you handle them, don't keep them out of the water as little as possible. Everybody, I mean, I'm talking to advanced groups, so you guys know, hold your breath and take the fish out of the water. When you run out of air, that fish is running out of air. So, watch their slime, all that good stuff. As far as spawning goes, see spawn beds, it's tempting, just leave them alone.
there's plenty of small males in the same area around that bed that will, they'll be just as aggressive as that female guarding that bed. So look for, spots away from the beds. If you see the beds, don't wade through them. And if you catch one, let it go. I mean, even if you get a giant, there's plenty of replicas that can be made, I know I'm talking to one of the most conservation minded fly fishing clubs, so just something we touch on. Summertime. This is what everybody waits for. Top water, poppers, all the good stuff. So we switch all our gear to floating and intermediate, sometimes sink tips, usually not though. On the top water side, you want a downside. The spring will throw big frogs, May, yeah. Summertime, go down to Boogles, your Mr. Wigglies, it's gonna be a cicada hatch this year. You go down to little bitty stuff. Up in upper Wisconsin, they fish ant-sized stuff, those fish up there. Our fish, you can get them on boogle bugs and everything, but it can be fast and then in the middle of the day it'll shut off, and that's when you got to go subsurface. You got to go back to streamer fishing and working for your fish.
Tequiles, small crayfish patterns,
Yeah, you want to stick with smaller stuff,
little buggers.
Stuff like that. Any streamers you use, you want to downsize them. No more 5-inch stuff. Want to get down to like a 2-inch fly maximum.
I mean, you can sight fish some of these big fish, drop your leader down to 8 pound, put a little size 6 little rubber bugger on there, and you can sight fish these things like bonefish.
You want to see the fish before they see you. If you guys are waiting, don't cast. Wait until you see the fish and sight fish these guys on a lot of the different water we guide on.
Sometimes these fish get so spooky, we'll put a size 8 little carp fly on with 8 pound, and these big giant 18, 19-inch fish will come over there and gobble it up. You never think a giant fish would come eat a little tiny carp fly, but they're opportunistic. They just sit there and sip it. They get afraid of the big streamers in the summer. Smaller murdaches, 3-inch, we'll downsize big time. We're not throwing big 6, 7-inch streamers.
Craft fur minnows.
Little tiny feather game changers, single hook stuff, size 1s, 2s. I mean, these flies are about 3 inches long, size 2 hooks. This big old girl came out of 6 inches of water, big flat.
There's a top water.
Top water, boogle bug, 6 inches off the bank in this little tiny pothole that was about 8 inches deep. Big old fish. Fish is 15 plus years old.
Yeah.
Blue skies.
But we do run into some carp, like I was saying, for warm water guide service. So we run into pike, carp, gar. That's basically the big ones. Once in a while we'll pick up a walleye here or there, But if the berry hatch is on a couple of the rivers, it can be fast fishing if you're interested in sight fishing. And then berries are dropping. They could care less what's going on around them. That's the one time where carp aren't. They put their guard down and they just go to town. There's a pike. It's about the size we usually get.
Yeah, not a lot of big ones around here.
Couple good gar.
Long nose gar, those are typically found south I-80-ish, all those rivers down there. Couple other secret spots north. The boats, like Mike was saying, we own 4 of these, 2 drift boats. We have 3 other guides working for us now: Mark Messer, Chris Hurst, Michael Davis. So there's 5 of us now, whole fleet of boats. This is one of the busiest years we've seen since we started. It's really been great. We do a lot of these group trips, a lot of fun. We can accommodate 3 boats depending on the river. We'll do that float like 100 feet away from each other. Everybody gets nice shore lunch, get together. Really popular. And we're one of the only guide services doing these group trips on a consistent basis, at least. And the rafts we use are typically very comfortable. Mike's a big guy. I mean, you can see how he's all stretched out. Super comfortable rafts. Only way to fish these rivers. Not getting a drift boat down them. We used to have the jet boats, but we got rid of them. We got drift boats now. Then the rivers, I mean, we guide on 9 different rivers all the way down near Ottawa and all the way up near the Wisconsin border and southern Wisconsin. All the main stuff, all the tributaries. I mean, here's an example of one of our private, we're the only ones licensed to guide on here. We're the only ones allowed to be on this river. We lease property at both ends. So if you want to get on some really scenic stuff, then we're the guys to do it. Nice glassed out river in the morning. Beautiful bluffs. This is only an hour from Chicago. Emerald green water. And it's like this the whole way down. All limestone, all shale.
It's very similar to the Vermilion.
Or like stuff you'd see in Missouri.
Same topography.
Dams on this. You see beautiful.
Some of our rivers up north, I know Mark's been on them with us. They're similar. They've just have it's a different way the river runs, but there's a lot of floats up there we fish too. No houses on them.
It's more prairie than woods. Like we said in the beginning, we offer full gamut of trips. We're working on overnight camping stuff, and we're still just working out the kinks. That's going to happen this year, if not next year. And everything's within an hour from Chicago. So if you live anywhere near Chicago or I-88, you're looking at an hour drive, no matter where you go. But we're always bouncing all over the place. We also created Midwest Golden Bones Fly Tournament. That's been going on for 5 years. This was the year that we did not do it because of COVID. It's always a really good time. It's an individual tournament. Big cash prizes. It's not even really a competition. It's just a for fun thing. It's a blast. We got live music. Everyone gets a sim shirt. Lots of prizes. Beer tickets. I think the most people we had one year was 65 people. It's just a really good time. Big party. So we might do that again this year. Then we started the Bronzeback Cup Invitational. This is a boat only tournament, teams of 3. And all the proceeds go to the coalition to save the Menominee River. We donate all the proceeds to that every year. This is another one we did not do last year due to the pandemic. But we're in serious talks about maybe doing it again in late fall. And that's a really fun one as well. And we also do Vice at Penrose. It's all free. It's just a community get together. We usually rent out the big cask room and get about 12 guys in there. And sometimes we'll do presentations or tying classes and order food. So if you're not signed up for our newsletter, I suggest you go sign up, and we'll keep you informed on all these tournaments, special deals for guide trips, every time we're doing any of these special events. And that's located in Geneva, Illinois.
So we're gonna open it up for questions.
Yeah, let me exit out of this screen so I can see your guys' faces. And then we'll open up the questions here. Let's see.
Actually, maybe I'll tie while we do the questions.
Yeah, we can do that. Does anybody have any questions while we're setting up the tying stuff?
Yeah, I do. What river would you consider being one of the cleanest that you fish?
I
Fish
mean,
is
they're
pretty
all
clean.
pretty clean.
Yeah, all the Illinois rivers have crap plants on them, right? So
Except a few.
being clean is relative, you know, in Illinois here.
I've never been out on a river in Illinois that we got on and thought that it was a dirty river.
Yeah, I mean, most of the rivers we guide on are pretty good examples of cleanliness as far as Illinois standards go, in my opinion.
I mean, obviously the Fox River is a crap hole in the summer because of all the fertilizer from all the suburbs and stuff. But the rivers we guide on they don't get algae bloom with all the stuff run off. We fish a lot of rural areas with natural, marshes and a lot of development.
What river would you consider the best pike river where you guys fish?
Oh, that's all north, yeah. Rock River system.
Bunch of fly stealers up there.
Yeah, Rock River system and then southern Wisconsin stuff. Yeah, you can get them on the Kank. You got a better shot of catching a muskie on the Fox than a pike.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Okay. What about the Des Plaines?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a good one.
That's a
Very
good one. We don't guide the displays, but it's a good one.
Oh,
for
okay.
pike.
I thought I saw that on the list of where you guided. Okay, must have been mistaken.
We started guiding on it. We kind of moved away from it. It's pretty urban fishery, you know.
Yeah, it
The
is.
smallmouth is marginal.
Mhm. Okay, I was just curious. Thanks.
You're welcome.
You had mentioned use topwater boogle bugs.
Yep.
You like those, or just because you don't have to tie them, or?
Exactly. You are correct, sir. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty pricey, but you think for the price they'd hold up a little better. But foam can be good too, but it doesn't give it the same pop as thanks, Kurt. Doesn't give it the same pop as cork does sometimes. I mean, a lot of guys that really fish topwater a lot will tell you that, gives it a different pop. But you can play around with foam too. I used to love blockheads.
Yeah,
I used to
or
use those quite a bit.
wiggle minnows and deer hair frogs.
That Mr. Wiggly
Yeah,
is really awesome too. I know I'm sure some members have had to have tied that. That's a pretty popular fly, and that works real well around here.
This summer, you're gonna get 17-year locusts. They usually last about 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. You prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Can't count on the guiding season on a hatch that I don't know is going to happen. So just keep your black boogle bug stocked, or some foam, something like that, something close enough,
Okay.
So the
It's
shore
the
lunch,
cicadas you're talking about, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
so the shore lunch should be a little bit better this year than last year.
What was it bad last year?
Oh, it was bad. It wasn't bad. It was just sitting all masked up. Fishing was good.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Right. Hey, how you doing, Bob?
Hey, good.
Yeah, we're still gonna give the option because some people are a little
Yeah, we
peckish
were
about,
doing,
other people preparing their food, but if people want us to give them a short lunch, they'll get a short lunch. Last year was a little bit different,
Didn't matter. The fishing was great.
right? All right, so I'm gonna tell you a leech real quick. You guys can just keep asking questions if you want. We're gonna start off with a B10S. Why not?
Mhm.
And lighting. There we go. Gamakatsu B10S. Pretty there you go. That's perfect. Everybody kind of knows this. And we got your large dumbbell eyes. Do not put small ones on there. Use large ones.
extra.
Red or yellow is fine. Magnum, rabbit strip. Magnum. Hairline. Marcos. And bunch of Flashaboo. I use the limp stuff, I use purple and I use copper, almost Mardi Gras colors. And then use this. I've been using this stuff for a couple seasons now. I love it. It's called UV Life Flex Wrap. It's like got these little rubber,
Legs in it.
Oh, yeah.
it's
Yeah, rubber
there's
legs.
all these little rubber fingers in here. It gets a little bit translucent in the water. I don't think you can tell by the camera, but this is black and purple. I use black and purple.
It's gonna have some pop to it, though.
Yeah, I tie this fairly large, like I said. Big gammy. Black thread.
What size thread do you use?
Whatever you got.
You got?
GSP.
GSP is what I usually use.
Oh,
I
okay.
just grab some stuff before I left the house. Heavy stuff I try and use, not too heavy though, Then I tie my eyes back about a quarter inch. I tie them back pretty far. It helps it so that hook eye doesn't dig when those eyes are forward. Like a lot of guys will crowd that eye. It tends to make that hook eye dig into the substrate, and you're always getting hung up. I'm just gonna get this thing on here real quick for you guys. Get your eyes on. It's super simple fly, but super effective. That's what I like. It's what every guy likes.
You don't use glue to keep your eyes in place?
I invented this fly.
Yeah, this is Kurt Crazy Leach. He did invent this fly. He's the inventor. No, I don't use glue.
Okay.
These I go through these flies like underwear.
Yeah, lose it every 10 minutes.
If it makes you feel better, throw a dapple of crazy glue on there.
Yeah, it seems like no matter how tight I tie it, it seems like the eyes are always a little loose, so I use glue,
Yeah.
hold it in place.
So I got
See, we use about 25 of these every guide trip, so there's no point in
no, not 25.
Oh, you bet.
So purple and copper back here, I leave it full length. I double it up and I just leave it full length. Let that a little bit, and I spin it over, expose that hook. Come in here, get myself a nice hunk of rabbit. I make these tails pretty long, so I go about 2 inches or more usually. What I do with the zonker strips is I have them, then quarter them, and then I use that. I'm probably a big waster, but you want to make sure this, you guys have all done zonkers. Want to make sure that that hair is going back towards the end of your fly. And then the beginning of the cut is up here. So I take that, I go about, again, about a 1/4 inch, so I have something to tie on to. Put it right on there, right on the hook. Go ahead and take the hook out, slip the material onto the bend of the hook. Set the hook back in the vise. I go ahead and I pull that material forward so it's tight against my flash boot that I tied down. And then I go ahead and I strap down my rabbit. And I come all the way back. So all that rabbit's lashed down real good right there. All right. I go ahead and flip this thing back over. Hold my material down. Then I go ahead and I didn't show you guys these, but I use the round black rubber legs. I use 3 of them. I just keep them together. That'll focus. Probably not. So I keep them all together. I tie them in all at once. I go right to the middle of the fly. Do it. Just go ahead and tie them all in all at once. Make sure they're even. Exit out. So they're all sitting pretty. Of course, I forgot to tie in my UV flex. Want to tie in the UV stuff first. So I cut off about 2 inches of it. I have to wind myself forward. Right back here. All right, then you're going to take this UV and you're going to wind it forward. Wind it all the way forward to where your rubber legs are. You're going to wind over that. You're going to keep going over that. And I wind all the way forward through the eyes to the front. I know you guys probably can't see this. Bear with me. This UV flex, it's real forgiving. Like it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to preen it back. You know, it doesn't have to be a perfect setup to wind that stuff forward. That's kind of the beauty of it. But it moves like crazy in the water. I go ahead and put a couple of 1/2 inches in there. Boom. Go ahead and splay your legs out. This thing's got so much movement in the water between the rubber legs, the flashaboo, and this rabbit strip. It has got like just crazy movement. See if I can get that in there for you guys. That is it.
Hey, Mike, when you tie that, you said you put the rubber legs on before the UV, or were you supposed to do it after?
No, I forgot to put the UV.
No, that's fine. I just
Wrap it
clarification.
forward. I
Yeah.
forgot to put it in beforehand. But yeah, you want to put that UV in so you're not going around those rubber legs trying to tie that stuff in behind it.
And the fish don't care.
Yeah, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But yeah, it's a super effective fly. Tie up a bunch of them, you're gonna lose them because you're dragging bottom. Bound to lose a bunch of them. Any other questions about the?
Any other colors you like on that fly?
Sometimes I'll do green, but very rarely. I just stick with the black and purple
Keep
and the
them dark.
copper,
Yeah.
Makes it simple. I'll switch up the eye color once in a while. A lot of times I'll throw a rattle in there too. Doesn't hurt to throw a rattle on it if you want, if it's a particularly long winter.
What kind of rattle do you use, Mike?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask. I use these rattles that I found.
Glass ones?
No,
Oh,
they're
you use the
plastic.
They're hard to
These
find.
real small worm rattles I found on eBay called Viper. And they don't break. The glass ones will break, they all break. These Viper ones are plastic, and they're small enough that you can use them for flies. The glass ones break, I don't know. I haven't really looked into what they're offering lately. So you guys might know more than I do if they're offering better rattles nowadays or not.
So Mike, bit of an embarrassing question. You guys, you can answer this too. You guys have been in business now for 5 years. What has surprised the two of you the most with regards to your success? I mean, here it is, year 5. You got 3 extra guides, you got 5 boats. You guys are rocking out. Your calendar's filling up fast. You have to be a little in awe of the whole thing. What surprises you the most about how successful you've been?
Yeah, I don't know.
It is a hard question.
Interesting
Thanks for the hard question, Negrasta.
Hey, you're welcome.
It's been great.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything we expected.
Yeah.
We had a plan. We knew when we started scouting particular systems and putting our program together, we knew it'd be successful.
Yeah, we knew
I'm
there,
not surprised by any of it, to be quite honest.
we knew there was a lot of stuff out there that guys have been fishing here for years that never fished it. And we knew we had to do something soon before somebody else did. And my favorite thing is bringing people to this water who've lived here for 20 years, been fishing this water for 20 years, and just blowing their minds. Like, I've had guys sit in the boat and say, I can't believe this. I can't believe this 20 times. Like, and it's awesome to like blow people's minds on some of this stuff.
Well, I was one of those guys. I was one afternoon on the Mazan. I swore I wasn't in Illinois. It was beautiful.
And it's not just the Mazan that's like that. Even the DuPage can be like that in certain spots. I've taken people on the DuPage, and there's bald eagles and ospreys down there now. I was out the other day, and there's this giant beaver. I thought it was a German Shepherd swimming towards the boat. All our waterways are special. It's a different perspective from seeing it from a raft or a drift boat. That's for sure. Yeah.
What do you guys foresee in the next couple years? Do you have any ideas on some things you want to change up, improvements you want to make, or?
I mean, I think we got it pretty much dialed in right now. Now it's just adding guys and boats. And I mean, we're starting to rent rafts out this year, $200 a day. So guys can do a whole DIY trip. We bring the boat to the ramp. You guys go, we pick you back up at 4 o'clock. For the guys that don't want to be guided, but there's a nice boat available. Just keep growing this thing and adding quality guides to our program.
I like to think that we want to be cognizant of the pressure on the rivers too, you know, like I know that DuPage in the past several years has gotten an enormous amount of pressure. So that was also part of the reason we started, you know, looking for alternatives to constantly guiding on it. You know, I mean, it doesn't do a system any good to have a couple of guys pounding that same stretch of water day in, day out, along with the kayaker, fishermen, and everybody else who wants to recreate or fish on the river. So.
Cool. Well, you guys are doing a great job.
I appreciate all the kind words.
Great job.
I want to take a quick minute to thank the the leadership for inviting us back too. I know myself being in DRiFT and other volunteer organizations that it's people that volunteer that, you know, make the wheels turn in organizations like this, and it's not always easy finding those people to step up. So I do appreciate it.
We attribute a big part of our success to all these clubs, all our friends and family. I mean, everyone's just been real supportive. That's what's really helped us grow. It's been great. I appreciate it, Mark and everybody.
Guys, you guys are great. Good job.
I
So-
appreciate you guys. I've last couple of years gotten my son out. He's got a 5-year-old granddaughter and can't get him out fishing much. So got him out with you guys and he just had a great time.
That's what it's about, you know, all the hard work, all the waking up at 4 a.m., making lunches,
Checking the CFSs and
yeah,
weather
sleeping
all
with the
night.
phone by my ear, watching the weather, you know, when you know, because, you know, I'm a father too, you know, and I've got a dad that's senior, and it's always nice to have some people out that truly enjoy themselves.
You guys did a great job
Thank you, Bob.
every time.
Appreciate the kind words.
So I got a quick question for you.
Yes,
30
sir.
years, 30 years ago when I moved out here, there were no osprey, there were no bald eagles. Today,
Yeah.
they're there. So we've got bald eagles local, we got osprey local. What do you guys see change in the river in the last 10 or 15 years?
I saw my first river otter last year.
Yeah.
That's
we
awesome.
see a lot of minks now. A lot of minks. I couldn't believe I had a river otter swim right up next to the boat. That was awesome. I've
The
never seen
Illinois
that
river
before.
otter has not been in this area for a long time, and they just
Yeah.
came back.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Well, it's for sure the water, you know, the Clean Water Act did all that stuff. And well, I shouldn't say all of it, but it attributed a ton to it, and, you know, conservation laws for sure. And, you know, the DDT, you know, stuff back in the 70s, you know, that I attribute a lot to that too. Also bringing the raptors back and the bald eagles and the ospreys. We saw that owl in broad daylight, right, Kurt, on the DuPage. Giant owl. It's crazy. Pretty cool.
And does that propagate through the whole river species, like the gar, the pike?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, just, you know, I'm not a biologist. My daughter is, but I would think, you know, anybody that's in the outdoors knows that, you know, that ecosystem's all tied together, you know, going from, I mean, you guys do the water monitoring, you know, from the macro invertebrates all the way up to, you know, your predators, you know, it all is tied together. Sure. And I think it, like I said, it leads back to the Clean Water Act.
And on the flip side, have you seen any impact from the invasive species?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you go on the DuPage, the invasive there is the mussels, you know, but it's an impact that sometimes hinders us, you know, with the clear water, but
yeah, and then Asian carp on the Vermilion and that river system. There's a ton of them. It was big. Yeah.
We've been on the Vermilion and the Asian carp down there.
It's
Just
crazy.
insane. I'd never seen it. I think it was about 3 years ago. We went out there
Yeah,
on
the
the
jet
jet and it
boat.
was nuts. They were hitting the bottom of the boat. It was no thanks. We launched the boat. We put the boat right back on the trailer and went home. Yeah, it's like something out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, that scares me a little bit for sure. I
Yeah,
just hope.
How clean is the water coming out of those water treatment plants?
Well, I mean, who's the conservation director?
Well, I used to work in the wastewater industry, and I can tell you that the water coming out is very clean, actually. I used to work for the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. I was an engineer for them. And we would remove about, I'd say about 95–98% of the pollutants that came in. As far as oxygen demanding substances, solids, and ammonia, we removed about 98% of it. Some of the micropollutants, not so much, but because it's all biological in nature. But those treatment plants by and large, do a very good job of removing pollutants. If you go to some of the outfalls, and there you'll see there's fish stacked up in them too. Because they come up with cooler and water's oxygenated. They have a permit from the US EPA that they have to permit the oxygen substances has to be so much, suspended solids has to be so much, phosphate, ammonia nitrogen has to be so much, temperature and DO has to have certain guidelines too.
Yeah.
On there.
Yeah, I think sometimes the like Fox Water Reclamation and stuff might get a bad rap because the Fox River gets the algae blooms, but I think it's a combination of things with the dams and the stagnant water backing up.
Right.
And yeah.
And the fertilizer from the lawns too.
Yeah,
I know
tons of fertilizer. Yeah. We live in an agricultural state, so our water quality is only going to be as good as the practices that they have.
Right. The US EPA, I was just going to say the US EPA now they put very strict limits now on wastewater plants for total phosphate. Now it's 1 milligram per liter is all that can be allowed in the discharge. So there's certain biological ways that you can remove phosphate, which I don't really want to go into, but it's helped. But like you were saying, that most of it is from non-point sources, like you were talking about those low-head dams on the Fox, and then the lawn fertilizer that gets washed into the river.
Terrible. Yeah. But they get some of those dams down, and they implement some stuff. Maybe in 10 years you'll have a really good fishery.
If you go to Lyons and there's Plains River, where they took the Hoffman Dam out, that's 100% better fishery down there now.
Of course it is. That's why they're talking about taking all the dams down. They know it's going to bang. It's just a matter of who's going to pay for it. It's a hot potato nobody wants to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one on Growl Mills like that too. That's going to be into a big debate. I personally can't wait to get rid of it.
Yeah. Watch out. They're talking about taking down a dam on the DuPage, which would be nice too. It's going to be a little messy for a while, but it's always a good thing.
They're going to take down that Vermilion Dam too by the concrete plant.
Yep, by the concrete plant. So at least Illinois is moving in the right direction. Illinois is not always conservation minded, as we all know.
Right.
There's movement in the right direction, so that's the best we can hope for.
Yeah.
Some of the largest costs of getting rid of the dams is getting rid of the sediments that build up on the lead side of them. And those sediments are filled with some of the pollutants of yesteryear.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
So you guys got any surprises for us this year or next year? I mean, trips somewhere? Are you going to go scout Montana or what's up?
We're going to be offering some hosted stuff up with Hunter. So look out for that. Sign up for our newsletter. We'll be up in Wisconsin a few times this year.
So that'll be what, like mid-state?
May, June, July. We'll probably do 3 or 4 of them.
State, how far up?
Like
Flambeau.
Flambeau, about 4 or 5, about a 5-hour trip from here.
So now is that going to be a 2-dayer?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Hotel, food, everything.
We put one together last year, but the COVID restrictions were too bad. We had to back out of that one, you know. They put the city on lockdown. Some of our customers were from the city, weren't comfortable traveling, so we had to put the kibosh on it. It just wasn't doable.
So it's basically going to be what, like a smallmouth crawl or a pub crawl, but for fishing?
What? Nah, smallmouth trip.
Might end up that way.
Yeah, you never know. End of the day. Business first.
Well, no, I'm just saying, are you going to go like fish in 3 different spots and 3 different days?
No, I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Smallmouth trip from hell.
Yeah, no.
I'm coming.
You going to tie a minnow for us?
No minnow. You got craft fur?
No
Can
minnow?
you stand by for a second?
Sure. We got nothing to do. It's all good.
All right, first you're gonna start with. Hold on. Give me 1 second. So I use a worm hook for this stuff for a single craft fur. It's super simple. I use a round bend worm hook with a little bit longer than normal shank. There's 2 all you need are one of these brush head EP brush heads, okay, and some craft fur. Get the good select stuff, you know, from Hairline. Don't cheap out on it. Stuff goes so quick.
So that's a what, a 3-inch fox brush or?
You can use craft fur brush, or I find fox brush is a little too thick.
This is the the fox fur stuff. It clumps up too much.
Okay.
That isn't really what I'm looking for.
Craft fur brush is really good.
Yeah. So we're gonna go with good old GSP. Super easy. I reverse tie this stuff. So you want to get yourself whatever implement you can get. I use a cut up piece of pen. So I go ahead and start my thread. What's going on here? Let's go ahead and start my thread. You guys will get the gist of it. Super simple fly. Wind your thread all the way to the back. Then again, I use the extra limp flash move. I use this micro stuff, so it's got more movement. I love this stuff. I get a good hang of it, you know. My opinion is never have too much flash.
Always cut it off later.
Yeah. Bring scissors with you anytime you go fishing.
Yeah.
All right, so I just half that. All right, so you tie this into the back, right to the bend, just like you would any other fly. This stuff I snip off. I'll adjust that if I need to. Then you get your craft fur. I go ahead and I get myself a pretty good hook of this. And I just tie it right to the back. I do a couple of these and I work my way forward. So
She's gonna come.
you want to go ahead and just, what I do is I cup it and I kind of make it round.
You wanna sleep with her?
And then I strip some of the extra junk out of it. So we got this much here. And then I go ahead and I just tie the tail in just like that, right on top of the hook.
So you just cut all that under fur off just to make it flat?
Yeah, I trim it up. Okay. Capiche? Then I kind of wind back a little bit, so I have it nice and straight off the back. And wind forward. That's it, right there. Then I go ahead. I get a little more on this one. See if I can get enough here.
All right, you're talking down.
I kind of stack this stuff. If I don't have enough, like I'll cut a bunch of pieces up, and you kind of stack this craft fur. I don't know if any of you guys have ever worked with this stuff, but it moves like crazy in the water. It's the best. Years ago, I kind of moved away from deer hair for a lot of my smallie flies and just went with straight craft fur. So I go ahead and I get a nice chunk, just so I'm a little, I wanted to get it just so I'm a little bit short of that last piece. Then I also trim this one off. I just cut all that duff and all that underfur right off. What I do is I reverse tie this stuff. So I get it into a manageable piece, and then I go ahead and flip it around. You have to work with this stuff for a while to be able to play with it like this. Then I just reverse tie it in over that hump there. Just like that. I only give it a loose wrap or two, and then I just kind of work it around. Work it around the hook. Working around the hook a little bit so it's encompassing the hook. Got a little more on the end than I want out, so I'm going to trim it a little bit. And you're going to take that stuff you just reverse tied, and then I take like I said, an empty pen cap, and I just push it straight back. Wet my fingers a little bit. Right there. Bring it out. Wind it forward a little bit. And I lashed out the very tip of it. Just like that. And then I repeat that process one more time. You know what? Let's do chartreuse in the front. So I'm going to do a chartreuse in the front. I'm going to go kind of fast on this one. Gonna wind a little bit forward. Nice soft wrap, 1 or 2. I'm just gonna move that thing right around that hook so it encompasses the hook. Any of you have done this with deer hair, you know that this section right here lifts it and gives it some more body. Pack it back. That might do it right there. I'll do one more. I'll do one more. And if you guys are worried about throwing a fly that's too heavy, get out of here. If you guys are worried, this is a super light fly. I don't weight these at all. Just use if you only have floating line, just use
It works.
a fluorocarbon leader, So this one, I'm not going to pull any of that duff out. I'm going to leave it all in. I'm going to go right back to my head, or it's about the middle of the hook now. I'm going to wind this one on.
Oh, you're done again. Oh, thank you.
Pack this one on, and then all you got to do is finish the head with the brush. That is it. I probably end up with half a pound of craft fur in my stomach after this. Got it. Now you're gonna take your brush. You're gonna tie this brush in. It's got, I don't know if you guys ever worked with this stuff, but it's got a little bit of sparkle in it, so it gives it even a little more color. Sometimes I'll put another, let's do that. I'll show you guys. I put another strip of Flashaboo in there. So I'll just put another strip of Flashaboo right before I decide to put that head on. Up there. That down. Now we're going to go ahead and just tie in our brush head. And then you just finish it with this brush head. Super effective fly. And they last a while. They're real durable. I don't use eyes or any of that stuff, but that's just because I guide. You guys can add eyes to this if you want. Make her pretty. So as I'm winding this stuff in, I try not grab it up here and clump it all up because it gets all jazzed up. And then this stuff, you do want to stroke back the fibers as you come forward. Try not to wind it on itself too much because you'll start jamming up the other fibers and it won't lay right. It's craft fur. You can add like go ahead. Somebody got a question?
How tight do you pack the head?
Really not too tight. You're not really. I want a good head on there. You don't want it too loose, but I don't pack it too tight.
Because of the reverse tie, Mike, do you have a problem with the craft fur wrapping around the gape of the hook sometimes?
No.
Okay.
Because it's. I don't mind that it does.
So what typically are you using for that? Like a 2X long shank size?
Yeah.
1 or 2 or what? Is it sort of like a partridge type hook, a predator?
Yeah, it depends on the time of year, you know. If it's out of here. If it's late in the year, I'll use a smaller hook, you know, like a 1. I mean a 2. But if it's early in the season, I'll put these on 1/0, you know.
But that's a fine wire, like
Fine
2X,
wire hook, yeah.
2X
This
long.
is a partridge. I meant to grab the pack, but what is this? A predator hook?
Predator,
Predator hook.
trout predator or something.
Yeah, partridge trout predator. I like the fine wire because it penetrates real good, you know. You get those thick hooks like when you buy them in the store. Like when you buy a Murdich, they have that giant saltwater hook in there, and you have got to really set a hook into a bass's mouth in order for that thing to penetrate.
Right.
Let's go ahead and finish her up. There's a couple of guys up north that use these for everything. I wish you guys could see this. But that's basically the fly. You know, it's just. Go ahead, sorry. It's just craft fur, flashabill, and a brush head. But it moves like a son of a gun, and it catches tons of smallmouth.
It's a nice looking fly.
And it's easy to cast. And look how it didn't take me, like I can smoke these out and nothing flat.
The one thing is with those, would they trap a lot of air? Would it be hard to get those to sink? Or
No,
would
not
they,
really. Once they get wet, they're okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Mike, do you tie that in any other colors?
I'll definitely catch fish.
Yeah, I'll go with chartreuse over white, pink over white on certain rivers that have pike on it. That's about it. White on white. Sometimes they only want white, you know.
Do you ever take a marker and color it up a little bit, like on the top, or put a dot on or anything like that?
Yeah, not really. I used to. I don't anymore. I don't know that it does anything different. I will rattle them up, you know. I'll stick a small rattle in them sometimes. If the water's a little discolored. Helps them find the fly once in a while, I think.
You ever change the brush up?
Sometimes I use the smaller brushes at the end to build the head, you know.
Minnow head, a little minnow head brush.
Yep, the minnow heads I'll use. Yep.
Hey, Mike, you don't bother with eyes, I know from a guide standpoint, but you know, everybody talks about eyes or not eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't use that. I mean, I'm not saying they're bad to put on. I just don't have the time to do it.
And you don't think it makes that much difference, right?
It might, you know, that predator might key in on that eye. You know what I mean? It might make a difference. I'm not saying it doesn't.
Okay.
Get some eyes.
So what do you call this? Just a craft fur minnow? Is that it?
It's just a craft fur minnow. It's my version. There's a bunch of versions, you know.
Well,
so that's a lot easier to tie than the Murdich minnow.
Yeah, that merch is a good pattern too. We tie those in smaller versions too. They're good.
Really in the summertime.
Yep.
well, anybody got more questions for these guys? Otherwise, we're gonna let them wash dishes or whatever they're.
I got one question, Mike.
Cart's gonna start dusting in a minute.
Hey,
There's one question. I looked away right towards the end. And did you trim up the back? Did you trim the back of the fly with a? Would you take a scissors to the back of the fly and trim it to blunt it off, or is it just?
I didn't trim it. No. I was just wetting it so it'd
All right.
sit pretty, that's all.
Okay.
I kind of fly like this. You put this down just under the surface or deeper?
It depends, I can fish this on an intermediate line, I fish it on an intermediate and a floating line.
Okay.
Like my articulated feathered game changers I tie, the bigger ones,
Yeah.
I'll fish those down deep, like early spring, like it is now. Like those 6 inches articulated ones.
But something like this, you're fishing in the top 3 or 4 feet.
What's that?
You're fishing this one though in the top 3 or 4 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Don't forget, if you guys are interested in trying to get in with these guys before they're completely full, they're giving us a $75 off per trip deal. So get on the horn. We'll send out some kind of an email, Mike. We'll come up with some
Okay.
number or something, and everybody can just use that.
Hey, Mike, are you working weekends or during the week? How's your schedule going?
Yeah. We're getting out during the week.
During the week too? Good.
Holy holidays.
All right, any more questions for these guys?
No.
Thank you, gentlemen. Always a
Keep up the good work.
Hey, thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
Good presentation.
See you, Mike.
Yeah.
And thanks to your assistant who showed up.
So long, you guys.
All right.
Guys.
Okay,
Thanks,
take
guys.
care.
Take care.
All right.